And then 48 hours after this, these burdens just started falling off my back. And my ability to focus on my goals of like being present with the girls and being around and being able to example to them, and just for about 2 years coming to the office hadn't felt like real life. I felt like I was watching myself live. And so, yeah, it was like awakening again, and refocusing yet again on the things that matter most to us as a family.
Welcome to Our Family Invests, the podcast where successful couples come together to share their inspiring stories of balancing family, life, and business. We're Mike and Caroline Neubauer, husband and wife entrepreneurs striving to live our best lives with our family at the center. This podcast celebrates the couples who inspire us, invest in each other, and raise those around them to the next level. Join us as we explore their challenges and victories. Let's learn, share, and grow together. Today's guests are the kind of couple who remind us that success means nothing if you lose what matters most. Stephen and Nicole Ward have been married 13 years and are raising two incredible daughters while navigating entrepreneurship, homeschooling, and a deeply aligned family-first life. From scaling a business to $8 million and walking away from it, to hosting Airbnbs and launching new ventures they've built with resilience and heart. Their journey is one of radical trust in each other, their values, and the life they're creating. Whether selling a business to protect their marriage or dreaming of 3 months in Europe with their kids, Stephen and Nicole are living proof that alignment in marriage and business isn't just possible, it's powerful. All right, guys, welcome to the show.
Oh, Maddie, I was going to get teary-eyed there on that. You hit home on a lot of stuff there.
I did.
Awesome. Well, before I want to unpack a lot of that stuff, but before we get started, I want to peel back the onion a little bit on you two. And I want you to answer for each other. So Nicole, who is Stephen really? Like, if you were to strip away the accolades, the business stuff, the pressures, who is Stephen on a Saturday morning?
Saturday morning. Well, he's the leader in my life in general. I mean, he's a confident, strong leader. There's so many things I could say about Stephen. He has a strong faith in the Lord. And that's truthfully what made me fall in love with him in the beginning. He's steadfast. He's confident in who he is as just a man, which has led me, our family. And so being able to rely on him, I saw one of your questions you had asked in the questions you sent us. And when you asked, what's the quiet appreciation you have for your partner? I'm like, man, there were so many things that were coming to me throughout the night. And I'm like, what I don't say aloud enough is the confidence in who he is. As a person, I never have to question like where we're going as a family, as a couple. I never have to question how he'll react in situations. He's pretty predictable because he knows who he is. And I love that most about him, and that he has such a strong foundation in his belief about himself and the Lord, his family, what's important to him, his priorities. Like, there's never a question there. And that's just, I could never trade that for anything. So
I love that.
I needed that when I met him. When I met him at the time of my life, I needed that so much in my life. And still being married, I've known him now for 15 years. It's still like one things I constantly am appreciative about.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well done, Stephen. All right.
Yeah.
Stephen,
Wow.
Can you share a little bit about Nicole?
If I were to strip it away in that whole Saturday morning thing, it's like Nicole is like coffee and warmth and like appreciation and gratitude all wrapped into one. Like, Nicole, we were talking about it this morning. I'm like, she's always in for anything. It's like, you want to go get coffee? Yes. Do you want to go shopping? Yes. Do you want to do a podcast? No. Yes. It was like, you want to go to Europe? Yes. It's like anything. She's always up for it. And she's the most fun person to buy anything for, because every single time she's 100% genuinely grateful for it. Every experience we do from small to large, she's the one you want to watch. You want to watch the person see the thing for the first time. She's the one you want to watch. And I really love that, because a wife, and a partner and a person around you that just lives in gratitude and reminds you of the moments. It's like, I always say she's the grounder. Like, she's always grounding us. When I can get my head up about work and this and that, she goes, no, this. And I go, oh yes, that's the thing I need to focus on.
I love that. That's so good. So I feel like I have one of those too. And that's why I don't buy her things very often, because I don't want it to go to her head. Right. But But when I do, there is that genuine appreciation and gratitude. I'm sure it would be no matter if
Yeah.
I bought her stuff every day. But tell me, take us back to how you guys first met. What was that first date like?
It's so funny. Our story is funny. It's when Plenty of Fish first became like the online dating website, and we both were on it, I think like maybe 2 weeks, and my friend sent him a message and for me because I was too afraid. And so we ended up, I wrote him a message. He didn't write me for 9 months, which he doesn't remember this. And so then 9 months later, he sends me a message and I'm like, oh, it's that guy. So we agreed to meet for coffee, and we met at Starbucks after he was at the gym, and we talked until Starbucks closed. And that was just so easy and natural. And we're like, hey, we're not done with this date. The conversation was so easy, and I felt like I could just be myself. So I didn't want it to end. And we said, let's go to Denny's and get a milkshake. And then we were there for another 3 hours.
Wow.
So our first date was really just getting to know each other and opening up and being super vulnerable. I mean, I normally wouldn't be that vulnerable in a first meeting, but he just made it so easy to do. And so that was our first date.
She almost didn't come. She left that part out.
True.
Well, you did take 9 months to respond.
That is true.
Intimidated.
In fairness, my account was idle because I was actually dating the wrong person at the time. So,
Fair. Glad you saw the light.
Yeah.
When did you realize, how long were you dating, or what was that trigger that you realized this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with?
I'm going to get in trouble here. I know her answer. She knew that night. She went and told her sister she was going to marry me that night.
That night.
It took me how long?
About 10 months.
Yeah. Whoops. Whatever. You come out of bad relationships and you learn stupid things, the stupid habits and stupid emotions, and you got to work through those things. And she stuck around through all those things. And I took my first trip to Europe, and I was just kind of over there and with my brother, and I don't know, something clicked. And the day I got back, I grabbed her and kissed her and said, let's go, let's start dating. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was just a click. What's weird is when we look back on the first meeting, I went to bed that night with an emotion I'd never had before, which was certainty. And I had no idea why. I'm like, why do I feel so at peace with having met Nicole? So then I guess 10 months later, I found out. It never left.
And Nicole, you said that night you told your sister. So what was it about Stephen that was different, or that's a pretty strong feeling?
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier, one of the things I appreciate about him is his confidence in who he is. And he was a unicorn in my life at that time. Like I needed someone who had such strong morals and values and knew who he was and knew where he was going. And we spoke about Europe, where Europe was one of my things on my bucket list to do. And no one in my life really had that same aspiration. And I had been going through counseling for about 6 months prior to meeting him, because I come from a family of divorce. And I was in a 3.5-year relationship that was pretty tumultuous. And at that time, I was just looking for something completely different. I had been out of that relationship for a year. But when I met Stephen, it was in alignment with where I was going. He was in alignment with my values. And so it just felt like this is someone I could hang out with every day. And he didn't take my energy away from me. I wasn't exhausted after speaking with him. I was energized. He let me be myself. I felt 100% comfortable. So when I came home, I have a twin sister, and I'm like, I'm going to marry this man. I love everything about him. Of course, there's going to, I'm just all giddy and excited. But I had said that, and I stayed true to that, even though he rubbed me wrong a couple times with not committing initially. But I really loved our foundation of friendship that we created. And we really had more of a really conservative courtship.
Yeah.
Was our 9 to 10 months of hanging out. And we did things together like grocery shopping, working out together, dinner together. And that was really nice just to have those things in the beginning of our relationship that I knew we could go throughout daily life and still want to be around each other.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I just knew right away because of who he is. I think he just made it easy for me to want to be around him all the time.
I love it.
That's great. It's funny is we're kind of the opposite. So I knew right away as soon as I saw her. In fact, I turned to my buddy and I said, "Oh my God, I think I'm in love." Just like that.
Yes.
And I knew after meeting her that first day that I was I was kind of going in the wrong direction. And I knew that it was up to me at that point to either change my life and follow that girl, or like keep going in a way that I didn't really feel was the right way to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so she saw right away nothing in me, and it took but she liked hanging out with me, and so we became this strictly platonic friends for 12 months at least, until she finally agreed to date me. But we were inseparable. We
Yeah.
built up that courtship,
Yes.
like you mentioned, and that friendship first, and that has been such a pillar of who we've become, instead of just jumping right into that kind of relationship aspect. So I think that's great.
Yeah.
It's really
Agree.
interesting of like, the scars of your past. It's like everything happens for you instead of to you. And when I finally started figuring that out, it's like those girls that ruined me allowed me to be ruined long enough to be around Nicole long enough to do it the right way.
Yeah.
I
I
love
love
that.
that. Okay. Tell us about your business, what you do, who you serve, and why you do it.
Which one? So let's see. We've kind of gone professional in our Airbnbs. That's been fairly recent. So we do short-term rentals in both Airbnbs and vehicles. And we just built our first kind of like professional Airbnb that went live last night. We had our first guest last night.
Nice.
And so that one just kind of came out of, we had a basement 10 years ago and we're like, let's get the remodel paid for. So that's kind of where it came from. And then we found that we had a knack for it. And then we bought a house in Florida in 2022, 21,
2022.
And so we went down there and made it all happen and got it set up, and just loved the process of getting it set up and putting our heart and soul into the place. And so like, let's do it again. So then we built this one, and we just finished, shopping and doing all the things, getting it together. And that's been just a blast.
It's a lot of fun. We like to create a unique spot for people to come and have their experiences in a place that's pretty and comfortable. I really love that. So the hospitality side of things, I just love so much. If I could do more of that, I would. And I want to. We're trying to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we love the beginning stages of it, like, how is it going to work? And we're thinking about all the things someone might need. What's the design part of that?
How to make it homey.
How do we make it homey? And then bringing the girls into that business actually is a lot of fun. And I think that's probably why I love it so much, is because it feels like a family effort.
They feel it too. They don't want to give the houses up when we're done.
Yeah. Yeah. And, our 9-year-old, she is asking how she can make her own money. And she's like, can I be your cleaner for the Airbnb? And, and then she's playing her own little games. And she's like, look, Mom, I have this rental over here. And then I have this car, and this is my extra rental. And we're
Love
like,
it.
yes.
Love it.
I
Yes.
love that.
Modeled behaviors
That's-
sinking in.
Yeah.
You guys, we are so similar as a family, because we've got Airbnbs as well, and that's
How
kind
we
of what
started.
got us to where we are.
Right.
And we just finished one in Arizona. We've started to move more into the experience phase of the Airbnbs. So when we started, we live out here in Maui, Hawaii, and so we have rentals out here, which are great, but we just started doing these kind of more, I don't know. I think the Arizona property is really kind of like a luxury rental property, but it's got a really cool feel to it. And then we're building like a glamping resort with like 20 units down in Zion National Park.
Yeah.
And
That's
so,
awesome.
That's amazing.
we're doing some really cool stuff, but it's more about the experience now, I think, with Airbnb than the, before it was like the Wild West. You could put anything up there and you're going to make money.
You
And
could use your
It's true.
and
couch.
those days are kind of gone unless you dig in a little bit more, right? So I love where you're going. And we also have a 9-year-old. However, he is the opposite of your daughters.
Who can I pay to clean?
Yeah, he is
Perfect.
If it's
Patrick Warren
Fortnite,
leader.
he's all in. If it's anything else, he's all out. So we're working on him still. He's a work in progress. But I want to go into, because you said something in the questionnaire that we sent you that I felt was really interesting. You walked away from a really healthy salary after helping scale a business to a pretty successful number. What did that moment teach you about success and surrender?
It's still
good
pretty
question.
close, So it's like only 2 months ago, but that's good. It was really interesting. The decision itself wasn't really the teaching moment. It was once the decision was made and what I realized that I had been sacrificing, letting run by me, like, for example, I just didn't realize I had so much headspace. It's like I'm the integrator of this company, and I was literally going to have a heart attack. I'm pretty sure I was going to have a heart attack if I stayed in the position, because my values or beliefs and the owners started to deviate a little bit. And then there was kind of a fracture in the company. And as the integrator, I sit in the middle of all that. Like my favorite example is, in that scene in Spider-Man when he's doing the webs and stopping the train. Like, that's what I felt like. I'm on the front of the train holding all these webs and my heart's going to give out. Yeah. And just like having the confidence to step away. And that really a lot came from Dan Martell. I started ingesting his stuff in December, and two quotes that just blew me away. The first one that got me going was, nobody has to do anything for you to win. And I thought, I have been giving away my own power in my life more than I realized. So that turned everything around for me at this company. And then the second one is build a life you don't want to retire from. Retirement's not the goal. And I thought, how come I never thought of this stuff before? And so then when I looked at my time, my health, my energy, my time with my wife, that we could build something on our own, and we've done it many times. So of course we could do it again, and we could do it together, and we could be with our girls. It was like, I had this moment where I was really torn between the two. And my dad came to me and he said, 3 years from now, Stephen, is he going to say, good job for sticking it out one more year? You should have quit today, you dumb. Or if you stop today, and you can start towards that life, what are you going to experience? And once I made the decision, I had about 48 hours of sort of fog and sadness, because the leadership team here accepted me as a group of friends. And it was just a kind of a beautiful group of friends moment. And then 48 hours after this, these burdens just started falling off my back. And my ability to focus on my goals of like being present with the girls and being around and being able to example to them, and just for about 2 years coming to the office hadn't felt like real life. I felt like I was watching myself live. And so, yeah, it was like awakening again, and refocusing yet again on the things that mattered most to us as a family.
Yes.
I like that.
Nicole, did you see that shift? I mean, you were there front and center. So did you see where that decline was going? And have you seen a change, and even in the decision-making period?
Yeah, I've seen the decline for the last, I would say, 3 years, as far as his mental capacity and just happiness in general. There's been a lot of stress on him, and he was having, heart palpitations, bad dreams. He went to the hospital once, and that was over the summer last year. And I felt that we weren't acknowledging the stress that he was carrying, because we're just going through our day to day like anybody does. Mm-hmm. And you don't realize the burdens that you have on your shoulders until you're out of it and you can see through the fog. So when he had finally said, he had a moment when he was out of town and everything was just kind of coming at him at once. And he had said, I don't have to carry this anymore. It was a sense of relief for both of us to hear him say those words, because we've always thought he'd be a lifer at this business, and we love this business. We've made this our own business, essentially.
Yeah.
But to hear him say those words was so freeing in his voice. And then for me as well. And I'm like, you're right. We can choose today. We don't know what tomorrow looks like, but we can choose how you feel today, and choose your happiness, your health, our family, yourself, so that, I was all in. The moment he said it, I'm like, we really need to pay attention to the conversations we've had over the last 3 years. We need to pay attention to your health. We need to pay attention to, the burden that you're carrying and how your body's reacting to that. And I don't think that we really were.
Yeah.
And so
you work for that one day.
That did make us refocus, like, hey, what's important here? Yes, there is this goal at the end of the year of this lump sum of money. If you get all the goals met in the business, there is this reward, right? At the end. But what is that the sacrifice of your health, of your happiness, of potentially our marriage, the family? So that, I feel like once he had said those words, the decision making was almost easy. It was just encouraging him on that path that you're making the right decision, and it's scary, but look, we're probably gonna have doors open for us or realizations that we're not even aware of yet, because we're still in it. So let's just take this leap of faith and trust that that we're choosing this path together, and it's okay. Yeah. Even if we realize that we made some mistakes along the way, at least we chose it together. So.
Hey family, real quick. If you would prefer to watch your content, head on over to Our Family Invests on YouTube. You can watch this podcast and more over there. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that little bell icon too to make sure you never miss an episode. And now, back to the show.
Yeah, I can imagine that it was difficult making that decision, even if it felt like the right decision, because of, how lucrative it was to stay and how hard it would be to leave that. Right. But at the same time, when you start to add up all the other things, the intangibles, right, the health aspects, the family aspect, all of that, you start to realize that, well, money isn't everything. In fact, it's probably the least beneficial thing in all of this. Right. And so I wonder, like, how freeing was that moment when you're just like, hey, man, I'm out.
Yeah, there was 2 layers to the freedom. The first was I don't need anybody to do anything for me to win. And so I adopted that here. And I started telling the staff here, I said, there may come a moment when where I'm going and where this company's going deviates and I'm leaving that day. I don't think anybody believed me, but it definitely came. And so that was the first layer of freedom. So I'm like, I will give this one last hurrah on my terms. And I'm not going to wait for anybody to do anything. Then this idea of building a life you don't retire from, it was like once I evaluated what my day was day in and day out, what my year looked like, and that it took me 364 days for one day of payoff.
Yeah.
It became a no-brainer. And I cannot describe to you the freedom to go from having nightmares almost every night to having none within 24 hours. It's like, that's crazy. Like, I don't know, my throat would close up and I would have a hard time swallowing. And it's just like, you just got to power through. You just got to get to the next phase. It'll get better, but till when, And so, yeah, when you asked the question about freedom, that's the best word I can even think of. I mean, that is the theme of making that decision.
Yeah. And if you don't have your health, you don't have anything.
Nothing.
Yes, we say that a lot, actually. I mean, he did have that throat problem. I mean, that started 2 years ago, and it has happened periodically in the last 2 years. So that's a real thing physically that's also affecting him.
Gosh, talking about this makes it seem really heavy. Yeah, that was crazy.
It is. It's one of those things that I think people take for granted, and they do, like you were saying, like, let's just power through. It was one bad day. We're gonna tackle it again tomorrow. And they go through that, and then time flies by, and your body takes on those stresses, and medical problems induce because of the stresses that are going on. Your body adapts and holds that. And so, like, there's one thing about being resilient and persistent, but there's also, hey, let's stop and take a look and not be in the trenches, because this is not the value of life. This is not to our fullest potential. And I mean, we left the Maui Fire Department. That is a highly coveted job here. And our parents were afraid for us because of our insurance and all the things. Yeah. But it's one of those things that you take that leap of faith and you think in the moment, this might be a detrimental decision, but it's actually opening you up to even greater heights. And that's like where you guys are at.
Yeah, a huge change for us was taking on 75 hard. So, we got together for our couples planning January 4th. We never did that before. And that sort of directed us down this path of these 10X goals that we felt were impossible. And then we took on 75 hard. And the reason that matters, I work out. I've been an athlete my whole life and I stay in shape. And so, we're going through all the motions of the challenge. And then all of a sudden, we need to listen to 10 minutes of a book. And so I'm like, we're throwing in gap in the gain, and 10X is easier than 2X. I'm like, gap in the gain really started to turn it around, because when you're talking about, we're going to lose insurance, we're going to lose that money, where's the security? You go, hang on a second. 10 years ago, you started your first business, you figured it out. Then you guys did another one, like us. We did another one and we figured out we have this. We had a week of just pep talking each other. Yeah. We've done it before. We can do it again. We've done it before. We can do it again. Yeah. And so it's like that. It was cool because the 75 hard forced, and I listened to books, but it forced, I've listened to Gap and Gain 4 times, 10X 4 times. And it's just rapidly changed our context. So this is a pretty cool, like, fortuitous thing to start that challenge, have this thing come up, and this decision be looming all at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think you mentioned quite a few Ben Hardy books, and I'm a big fan too. I love Gap in the Game, love Who Not How, love 10X is easier than 2X. And I think you're right. Like, those books help, they're mindset books. They help change the way that you think about what you're doing. And Gap in the Gain especially is one that kind of hit me hard
Yeah.
because I feel like before that, I spent so much time looking at where everybody else was. Right. And even your contemporaries in your field, like, oh, this guy's doing this and this guy's doing this. And they're all like way up here. But at the same time, what you're not seeing is like, well, these guys have been doing this for 20, 30 years. Right. And you started 6 months ago. Right. And but you take a look back and you start to see how far you've come in just a short amount of time. And it's pretty rewarding. And so I think since reading that book, I feel like I've lived a lot more in the gain than the gap. And now maybe to my detriment. And I think I've said that before. It's like, I probably should look at what some of these other guys are doing, but I'm just so happy and I'm so content. And there's zero stress in my life, zero. And that's a pretty amazing place to be. You know?
It's so amazing. Yeah.
It brings you a sense of peace. And yeah, I'm so thankful he read that book because
Professional gapper since 1984.
a little bit. Well, because he's so goal oriented and such a high achiever. I think he would get caught up in not being where he wants to be because he's been so successful in his life with literally anything. This guy can do anything.
Yep.
But it's all about what you tell yourself. And so he was constantly living in the gap in that way. But since he's listened to the book and read the book, I mean, even the way he speaks to our girls has changed, which has been so amazing.
That's
and
great.
We're way more aligned with our approaches on certain things. So that book has been life-changing, I feel like, for us and for our family.
And I think, being more in the gain is not, it's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that you're not striving for something. It's more that you're slowing down and you're taking the time to be content with who you are. And when those opportunities come along, you're more ready to strike.
Yeah.
So I love that book for that reason, because it really did change my mindset a lot too.
Instead of always tasking and growing and vision and building, it's like, hey, look at what we've built. And we can breathe and enjoy, because you sometimes forget your why.
Yes.
Yeah.
So easy to.
What is one lesson that you think that life keeps teaching you?
You want to start?
Well, it's funny. We already kind of naturally went into this conversation, but definitely appreciating the here and the now. And we as a couple, I feel, are pretty goal oriented, and we're like setting up tasks. What are we doing next? What are we doing next? Where are we going next year? Instead of really appreciating where we're at and what we've done. So part of starting homeschooling was a big part of that. I've been very career focused my whole working life, but really realizing, what are my true priorities and what makes me really happy, what fills my cup. And at the end of the night, when I lay my head down, what am I going to be most proud of? And it was at the time my intentional efforts with my girls and what we have and what we've done up to this point in our life, in our marriage, and appreciating that. So I would say for me recently, it's been just being more thankful and appreciative of the life that we've created this far, creating experiences as a family with our girls, and saying, yes, let's just do the thing. Let's go to Europe with the girls this year, because we don't know what next year or years down the road brings us. Why do we have to wait? If we might sacrifice, or not sacrifice, but it might be a little tight on our budget this year, but we're willing to make that experience and create that experience for us, because that is truly what's going to make us happy and make our family feel like we're living a fulfilling life. So I think that's been, for me, my biggest lesson in life has been just appreciating and creating experiences together. Because that's what's important to me right now.
Yeah, man, I feel like it's been a decade of the same lesson. And I feel like I've learned, like I was the guy that listened to his parents. Like they said, don't do this. I'm like, great, I won't do that. I don't need to learn the lesson. But this, I think the lie of entrepreneurialism, where you have to grind, give, sacrifice, this is the way. And someday you're going to get there. And someday is your kids are adults and you missed it. And someday is your health is deteriorated and you could have stopped it. And so it's like, we did that when we bought the gym, and it fit, we bought the gym, bought a duplex. I was remodeling the duplex, remodeling the gym, trying to get it out of debt, and gone. I would work at LCI until 3. I would go into the gym until like 9 or 10 at night, every night. She's pregnant with Charlotte.
Oh my gosh.
And we thought that was the right thing to do, but then it's like resentment starts building for her. I'm getting worn out, and like I'm sacrificing, I'm doing what we're supposed to do. And so that was one lesson. And then that was the worst lesson. And then it was kind of like LCI was the next lesson, this career that I walked away from. And then it was like Charlotte was she was getting me every day with, Dad, don't go to work, stay here.
That's
Every day.
hard.
And it's like, how cool is it that we got to make that decision? But that came from lots of great decisions over the years. We didn't just luck into it. And, I'm the kind of guy that's like, when Nicole said it's a little tight on the budget, I'm like, let's make it abundant. So we'll figure out how to make more money. But again, it was still back because I'm just I need to get up and do a thing. I've already done some stuff. I need to get up and do some more stuff. And she's always been the centered one of like, appreciate the moment. Sit here with me. Sit here with the girls. Focus. You weren't paying attention to Rory when she was talking to you. Oh, you're right. I was really focused. So it's that lesson again. And I bet I have more to go, but I really like where we're sitting on this one. Now it's like, I feel very, very daily intentional. So that's been a big deal.
I like that a lot because we actually had the same situation with our son, Nico, when he was probably 4 years old or so. So, I used to be a firefighter at the Maui County Fire Department, and we would leave for 24 hours at a time. So my shifts were 24 hours long. And so I would wake up and I would get ready for work, and I had to be there at 7:30. So it means I'm leaving here by 7:00 to get there. And every single day that this happened, so I would work every other day essentially, and then I'd have 4 days off. Well, when those days came that I had to go into the station, without fail, Nico, our son, would come to me and be like, and just drag me down. And, Dad, why do you have to go? Don't go, don't go, don't go. Right.
Yeah.
And so finally I was like, okay, I'm calling in sick today. So I called in sick. And then it just got to the point where like, look, we have built up this nest egg with our short-term rentals, right? And we did this to get to a point where we could do what we want, when we wanted, with whom we want, all that fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, it was a light switch moment kind of, because we knew like at that point, we don't need the fire department anymore. We've done the thing. We don't have to keep going. Let's shift into an intentional life. What do we want? I want to be home with my son for every breakfast and every dinner. And I want to spend our meals together. I want to have every Friday night with my family. I want to have Saturdays with my family. You know what I mean? And so we started doing that, and we haven't missed one since. And so, we took a pay cut for sure, but it's okay because our life is so much more full now. And I think that's what a lot of people forget. Again, going back to gap in the gain, what is the purpose? What is the why of the why? Everybody wants financial freedom, but for what? And why is that? Is it that once you get to that stage where you can have financial freedom, why is it that your goalpost keeps moving? Right. And so like, what if the goalpost didn't keep moving? Yeah. What if it just stayed right there and we're free and we don't have to, but we can, but we don't have to. So now we live this life where it's like, look, I'm going to do the things that I want to do. And the other things, I'm not chasing money anymore. It doesn't matter. If it comes, it comes. Let's live in the abundance mindset, right? But at the same time, let's live thankful lives. Let's be grateful for all the things. And you know what? The money comes. It just comes. And we don't worry about those things anymore. But our life is, I feel like we're in a pretty darn good spot today compared to where we were, when I was going to the fire department on a regular basis.
Always room for growth, and that's not going to change because it's a lifelong process. But definitely don't want to miss those moments. Don't want to have our son go off to college or work or across the world and have no relationship with him. So
the other thing that
you guys think that
go ahead.
Well, I was just curious, were you, kind of grinding, doing the whole thing? And was it your son? I mean, through the mouth of babes that just like jogged that for you? Like, hang on, let me wake up for a second and look around and go, I've reached that place that I was hoping to get to someday.
Yeah. I mean, I think we know we knew what we were reaching for from the beginning, but it was him that just kind of made it real.
And so we
Yeah.
put a date in our phones when he was vested with the fire department that we would leave on that date. And so we knew, like, at least 2 years out, his whole department knew too. It was like, we are leaving at this date because that's our goal.
I
And if
called
we
in sick for 6 months.
and if we have to be sandwich artists, we will, which we know we won't because we're capable. But it was that intention, and it solidified what we wanted and our vision. And it kept us moving towards that rather than getting stagnant and getting afraid of not having our insurance.
Yeah, that's very real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jumping back, you guys have built businesses together. You've managed to be successful and work together. So from a business standpoint, young couples, entrepreneurs, what is something that you wish more couples knew or would have been helpful for both of you navigating the entrepreneurial world?
Well, we didn't uncover this till very recently, but I don't know if you're familiar with the entrepreneurial operating system, but there's two roles within that called the visionary and the integrator. She is 100% the visionary. And one of her unique giftings is she can envision something, do enough research to make it a clear picture, and then she hands it to me and I get to go make it concrete. And that's kind of what we do together. And then what we're currently learning is, like, through the use of Hannah, who's our EA, she's incredible. There's a point where her and I both are terrible and we need to hand it off to someone else. And so that's something that it took till now, which really helps. Like, that business that we sold is because we reached a ceiling, but we didn't know about buy back your time enough yet.
Mm-hmm.
I knew a little bit about who, not how, but I didn't have the how-tos to get it done well enough to overcome that. We weren't with our kids all summer. We lost, all summer because it's a wedding industry. We're starting to get snippy with each other, and each interaction gets a little bit more stressful and grumpy. And it's like, and we're super vigilant about protecting our marriage. So it's like, okay, we've reached a threshold. We have to make a decision here. So it's kind of like, there are tools, I think, out there like the DISC assessment or the Colby assessment or something that young couples should probably try to invest some time in and get a coach to walk them through how to use it, because you'll read it and feel good, but you won't know what to do with it, and learn each other's strengths, weaknesses, and then both of your weaknesses so that you can figure out how to fill that gap. Because I think we ran our heads against that wall many times over the course of some of these businesses.
Yeah, that's great. I think that is really valuable.
Yeah. I'm definitely the visionary in our business, and she is not the integrator. I'm also the integrator. I'm also the who and the how.
I'm the supporter.
She's the talent. But no, I totally understand where you're coming from. I think that's great. How do you guys stay aligned in business and as a couple?
Or where you want to be going forward now that you're in this new plateau?
Honestly, I feel like we're constantly reminding each other what our whys are, and keeping focused on what's most important to us. So in the past, we would have, just grinded, worked our butts off to get to this point, because it just has to be done. The work has to be done. Doesn't matter if we're sacrificing ourselves, our happiness, our health, our family. I come from a family that's like that. You just very hard work ethic. You're almost giving up pieces of who you are because of that. But we've done that in the past and that didn't work out. And we made some decisions to get rid of certain businesses because of it. And I think we could have really looked at that and been like, okay, where are we naturally good, and where are the holes? And let's see if we can find people to help us, or if this is not our passion, let's get rid of it. But because we were just working so much, sacrificing so much, we were a little bit blind.
We didn't have the headspace.
We didn't have this headspace to see, like, what is our true success here? So moving forward with the new paths that we're on in the businesses, we're just unwilling. We have more boundaries for each other and our family, and we're unwilling to make those same type of sacrifices. So just an example, a couple months ago, it was a crazy day. Homeschooling, Airbnb stuff, office things. And I'd been trying to get together with a really good friend of mine for actually like 8 weeks in a row. And I said, I think I'm going to have to cancel, Stephen, because this is just, we have way too much going on. And he's like, Nicole, you can't do that because you've been trying to see this friend for a long time. This is something that's really important to you. Do not give up a relationship. Don't make sacrifices in relationships because of the things that we're trying to currently move forward, such as our businesses, because we've done that in the past. And then we had so much resentment and regret. So the way we're moving forward now, we're not doing those things. So he was essentially helping me realize we have to protect our relationships and have boundaries around what's important to us. And still, we can, in a healthy way, move and work on our goals without the sacrifice of the things that fill our cups.
And since I just, left my work and we're like, now we're doing our own thing, I'm like, we can't start our own thing by violating our principles of building a life we don't retire from. And you guys are familiar with the production quadrant and the investment quadrant. And we'd done a lot of that and slotted things in there. And I said, this isn't your investment quadrant. And this is the thing that lights you up. And you got to go do it. We can't sacrifice it. We'll figure the other stuff out. So it seems subtle and like a no-brainer type thing. But shockingly, I think what happens when you get too busy is you just get blind. You just get blind. Even now, like daily, we can be like, hang on, hold on, wait a second. What's the value of today? It's really interesting.
I think it's always easier to see other people's problems or other businesses' issues and fix those things, right? Like that's easy, but you can't see the issues that are happening within your own walls sometimes. And I'm curious, like in this phase, as you guys start off on your own at a new venture, are there certain habits that you are working on implementing, have impact on your personal growth or your business growth?
Well, 75 hard sort of turned into that.
Really?
I finished 75 hard 4 or 5 days ago.
Yeah.
I haven't stopped anything. Gallon, book, up early, working out.
Yeah.
Like it produces so much. So I would say that's a new habit for both of us. I swore for years I'd never work out in the morning ever.
Yeah.
Since college. I'm like, nah, I don't do that. So that would be my answer to that question.
Our morning workouts, which has been since January, our morning workouts has helped our mindset and I would say our growth with just how we're understanding each other, being in alignment with where we're going, and just connecting, as a married couple. I would say that one habit alone has been the catalyst of a lot of decisions we've made in the last 90 days. And so that is probably a habit that won't change. My 75-day hard is over in 5 days. And it has changed my mindset. It's changed our relationship. And so even just, listening to a book together, listening to a podcast together, and then talking on this, having that time and that space while the girls are asleep to really connect and decide like, okay, what are we hearing? Where are we going? That's so, so important.
I don't think you can underestimate the weight of that, of what it's done for us. We can't overstate it.
That's good. I love working out in the mornings. I do the same thing. She can't get up in the mornings. And so that is something I would love to see us work out together as a couple. I think that would be really beneficial. So maybe I'll have to work on her with that one.
We
Just
did
say
do
yes
a
to the
6-month
75 hard.
challenge. We did do a 6 month, and I had never had a gym membership prior to that, just backing this up. And we signed up for a group 6-month challenge, which had multiple requirements. And we did commit to that. And I think that was great. And I think the habits have been built because it was just so long that you almost miss it if you're not doing it.
Yeah, you're right. Like it's not a 75 hard, but it's still something that is like, well, we're tracking our protein and our steps and our gym workouts and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, well, the challenge is over. We did it. But the challenge never ends because now it's a habit. And that's the part that I think is really powerful because, when you sweat a little bit, like what does Dan say? He says, exhaust the body, tame the mind. I love that because he's right. Once your body is worked out, your mind is so much clearer and you're able to focus on your day. And that's one of the reasons why I love doing workouts in the morning.
Yeah.
Because I can come home and shower off and these guys are still sleeping and it's time to wake them up, have breakfast, and I'm ready to go. I love that. I love that.
I am not a morning person, so I can relate. You have no idea. I'm a night owl. I love staying up late. I love my me time at nighttime. So that's been a little tough, but you know what? I'm like, I'm going to get 7 hours of sleep, 6.5 sometimes, but it's worth it.
Yeah. It's always worth the workout and you're
Yeah.
feeling good. So I just like to work out at a different time and that's okay.
Yeah, me
I'll
too.
work on it.
Honestly, I much prefer in the afternoon or like late morning.
Yeah.
Way more. But it was the 75 hard. Like, Dan kept throwing it out there in his book. I'm like, all right, yeah, if Dan does it, I'm going to do it. But we'll see how this goes. It's kind of like a little bit of competition thing,
Sure.
But then I was like, oh my gosh, to get in an hour and a half every day total in workouts, that's going to have to be in the morning.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it shifted everything.
Yeah. Okay. You have two daughters, 9 and 6, right? And you have called your oldest daughter the natural leader and the younger one the relationship genius. And I love that.
Yep.
How do you nurture those strengths?
I think it's sort of daily recognizing them and calling them out as we see them and speaking into them what those are. Charlotte's she's even ever since she was little, she'll just hit us with these things like, you must be feeling this way, Dad. And you're like, I didn't even know I was feeling that way, but she just does that. And then Rory's kind of the leader of her group all the time. And it's like sort of tempering her need to be out front with just nothing so much as like you did that wrong, but just try to be kinder next time. Or you could ask a question like this. And she seems to be adapting pretty well to that. She's in that stage where it's like, do I want to be super selfish all the time or do I want to be nice to my sister? And I have no switch in between. So yeah, we've been working on that, but it's the speaking into them. So generative language, which I pulled from the 3 laws of performance. I try to use that as much as I possibly can. And the gain talk. We're just constantly doing gain talk with the girls now. It's like, hey, Charlotte, remember when you couldn't recognize any letters and now you know your entire alphabet? And just watching them light up as you give them that gain, because I don't think we get that practice very often. It's usually just like, okay, great, you finished that. Now you can learn how to read. And yeah, so I think it's just recognizing the moments as they come.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah. And, my oldest, Rory, the 9-year-old, she's so different than me. And so even since she was 2 years old, she can be rambunctious and loud and like attention's on her anywhere we go. And I'm so not that way. And I'm like, I want to crawl in a hole, don't bring any attention to me.
Yeah.
Even like when she was going to school before we did homeschooling, I would just notice she would bring people around us and people I didn't know and adults. And I'm like, she's taking me out of my comfort zone. But I never wanted to make her feel that insecurity of mine, because it's like, that is such a strong characteristic of hers. That is amazing. It's powerful that she has that naturally. And so I really just do my best to just let her be her and never, because I think I can give her expressions, or I could easily be like, no, Rory, stop. And that would, essentially make her feel like she can't be herself. And so just letting them be themselves, even if I'm really uncomfortable, would definitely be one of the things, especially for my oldest one.
Well, she may have helped get you to where you are today because you are on a podcast. And
You're
have you done a
right.
podcast before?
No, this is my first one.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you could probably shout out to Rory for that too.
Exactly.
Getting out of your comfort zone, growing
Yeah.
and
Getting out of
stretching.
my 100%.
She'll go to Trader Joe's and just have conversations with all the checkout people and everything. I mean, she's funny.
That's
Love that. Okay, what do you hope that your girls learn from the way you live and work?
Oh man, we talked about this morning. I feel like it could go a lot of different ways. I think on my end, she'll have a way better answer than me. But on my end, it's like I'm still trying to navigate overcoming being a gapper my whole life. And so trying to teach them to measure backwards and gain confidence from the things that they've done, I think is a big one. And I need them to see through modeling, which I'd probably be harder on myself than she would, that the family is the priority. The marriage is the priority first, then the kids, and then the businesses. And I want them to feel that and know that. If we do that for the next until they're 13 or 14, I think we'll set them up for a good foundation. Then we can get to some of the technicals, of like investing and stuff. But my kids, they'll bring me a dollar bill and like, Dad, can you put this in my investment account? So, I mean, they're not talking like normal grade schoolers already.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. I just want to know that what we think we're trying to do is coming across to where they go, yep, mom and dad are the most important to each other, followed by us. And then we do this stuff together in life as a family.
Yes.
Yeah. That's good.
Yes. And I think for me, I think they might see 2 different versions of their mom. I would say 3 to 4 years just working super hard, kind of making a lot of sacrifices, family time, not being home at night because I'm working at the office so much. That I did not want to model that behavior for them. So before I started homeschool, I realized that I was modeling a behavior that I despised, and that is just like not life fulfilling at all. I was working too hard, just the work ethic. I kept telling myself, oh, well, I have strong work ethic. And that was my excuse. Like, no, you just get the job done because this is what you do to get to where you want to go. But that wasn't healthy. And that's not what I want my girls to do in their life. If they were doing that in their family, I would give them different advice than the advice I was taking myself at the time. So since we've decided to homeschool and really decide like we're going to focus on what makes us happy, because it's not all about money, and it's about happiness, and it's about where you're getting your joy from, and a sense of peace at the end of the night. Having peace when you go to bed is so important. And so I think to me, it just comes down to what is your feeling at the end of the day? Because you're going to remember that more than you're going to remember the daily tasks or the hours of grinding at the office. And so that's what I would love for the girls to see now with us, is that like the things that are important to us are just, they can see we're taking actionable steps, improving the things that are important, such as our girls and experiences and family, and creating just a fulfilling life, rather than the task in front of us and getting to this goal, because the goal isn't the most important in our daily lives at all.
That's
It's
been a
each other. And I think for a while I was modeling the goal as what was most important and not what was actually in my heart most important.
Yeah.
It's that weird, like, super cliche, it almost makes me want to puke say it, but like enjoy the journey, not the destination. But it's like there's a very real thing to waking up every day and living a life you don't want to retire from. Like there's something very real and very powerful, and very, happiness is not in the future, happiness is now. And yes, there's up and downs type of a thing that we're still grappling with.
Yeah.
So true. And the girls, I told this to Rory the other day, you don't have to fit in a mold. You can create the life you want to create, because what's important to you may not be as important to another person. So that's going to be different for each person. So you don't have to do the thing just because that's what society says or somebody else around you says of what they're doing. Create your own life. And if that makes you happy, then go for that. There's no specific mold.
Yeah, I like that. You guys, and I'm sure your girls are going to see, not that you focused on the goal, but more that you had the courage to change your focus, right? Like you are able to have that grace to be like, look, this isn't important anymore. This is what's important, and I need to change. And I think when people can lose their ego and be willing and honest and humble enough to be the ones that have to admit that they're ready to change, that's huge. That's the most personal growth that you can see. So I want to transition to kind of lightening things up a little bit here. And I want, Stephen, I want you to answer this without using any Dan books or Ben Hardy books or anything like this. But I want to know, who are 3 people, books, or places that inspire you?
Well, I throw my dad out there, actually,
Awesome.
and by extension, my grandpa. You've got these families that decided to follow Christ, and whether or not you sit on that totem pole for belief, somehow that following has produced stable families and generational insight and stability and integrity. And I still call my dad like every day. I mean, we partner on stuff. He's a EOS implementer,
Wow.
and we're constantly talking. So I think I might throw him out there first.
Wow.
No Dan or Benjamin Hardy, and I have to go with Chris Voss then.
Chris
Never
Voss.
Split the Difference was a absolute phenomenal game changer. Once I started practicing the tools within that book, changed my interviews, changed my reviews, changed how I approached clients, the government, because I do a lot of lobbying and meet with senators and congressmen, and so boy, that was a big change. I know this is gonna sound super millennial, but I probably have to say like Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
I'd say he's been an influence in my life for a long, long time, and not necessarily for his own personal whatever he does, but just that him and Kobe Bryant both, that just sort of like laser focus on doing the things that not everybody else is going to do in the times when everybody else is doing what's expected, and you're in the gym, whatever that is metaphorically. Boy, I never really thought about that before. I've got his posters still stored somewhere in storage
love
because
that.
it's like it's
You can
still
pull
a
it out.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Nicole?
Who inspires me? Yeah, I've actually never thought about that, which is so funny. As I'm sitting here and listening to him, like, oh, what's my answer going to be? Well, inspiring my mom for sure. My parents had my sister and I, twins, at age 16, and they traveled across the country with 2-week-olds.
Wow.
And now my mom has, in a box.
My goodness.
Now my mom has a master's in psychology.
Wow.
And she definitely, and my dad too, both of them have such strong work ethics, and they changed the trajectory of where generations of my family were we're heading. And so I feel like they instilled so many important lessons for me. And then honestly, I've been listening a lot to Dan's wife, Renee Warren.
I love Renee.
I love Renee too.
You said she's your spirit animal.
She is like my spirit animal. I relate to her in so many ways. She calls herself the extroverted introvert. That is so me. I can flip a switch and just be like, I'm so giddy and happy and get bubbly all the time. But then I'm like, no one talked to me for 2 days.
Yeah.
That was a lot. Honestly, inspiring. I kind of go to just any mom that is paving her path and doing business, entrepreneurship. And I would say that's most inspiring to me, especially just because now I'm trying to focus on my health and fitness. So moms out there that have just figured it out, that are doing it, but it's not perfect. Like, that's inspiring to me. You don't have to say that, oh, she's super mom or what. It's just, you can figure it out. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to say, oh, I'm the stay-at-home mom and I'm the homeschooler. You don't have to say I'm the career-driven mom and I'm not present with my kids. So when I see moms out there that are doing both, they're present with their kids, they're intentional with the kids, and they have their businesses and they have their own passions, that's inspiring to me. And I love that. So I'm trying to find more people that I'm inspired by now. I'm actually making an intentional effort as I'm hearing Renee and seeing the people she speaks about. I will go listen to them to see, okay, what do they have? What's their tidbit that I can learn from them?
What's a moment with your kids that's frozen in time for you?
Shoot. Well, there's a pretty recent one. I mean, taking them to Oktoberfest in Germany was pretty frozen in time, I'd say, because I've just had a passion for Europe for a long, long time. And so the original plan was to go solo. And it was about that time when we started reevaluating, like what really matters, what are we going to do? I'm like, well, I'd much rather you guys were with me. And so it's like, let's figure it out. And so we figured it out. And gosh, that's just those moments when they're like, Mom, why does that little baby speak German? Just those things that they're grappling with and contemplating at ages 6 and 9 versus ages 18 or 20 or whenever you finally make it over there. It's just watching their minds expand was really cool.
Yeah. That's super cool. We just got back from Japan. Same kind of thing, right? And I love traveling. I think that is the great educator. And it's that, not the experience as much for myself, because we have been to Japan before and we travel a lot and I've traveled a lot and I love it too. But that experiencing it through their eyes is so powerful.
Yeah, we could be anywhere, but just seeing them like embrace the changes is super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
So in one sentence, what would you whisper to your teenage self if you could meet them today?
Gap in the Gain wasn't written yet. So that's a really hard one because 17-year-old me probably wouldn't have.
Pretend that you were listening to yourself.
Gosh, I think it'd be something along the lines of, you're capable, work every day to overcome your self-doubt in that capability, like focus on it. I think that's about right.
What about you, Nicole?
I think a couple things. You have value, and you can do the hard things. So I used to be very fearful of stepping outside of my comfort zone. I dropped out of college because I couldn't do a speech class. And if I knew then what I know now, it'd be, you can actually overcome that class and you can kill it.
Yeah.
Because now we've done conferences, in front of 100 people at our previous job. And it was great. And I loved it. And I learned from it. And I think just not letting fear take over and stop me from saying yes to the things that are going to be difficult. Because obviously you grow out of difficulty and challenges. And I think we've both done that over the years.
Flipped it though. It's like, if you're not uncomfortable, if it's uncomfortable and you want to do it, is it uncomfortable? Okay, then go do it.
Then you should probably do it.
That's like 2025's theme.
Totally. And that really leads us into kind of our mantra here is we say, we learn, we share, we grow. And what is something that maybe you've learned recently that has helped you to kind of stop and breathe and see life differently?
Well, I'm going to say it again. That dang quote of no one has to do anything for you to win and build a life you don't want to retire from. It just shifted everything. It gave it allowed me to take all the power back that I didn't know I was giving away. And so I know it's a very recent thing, but that is certainly the most impactful right
I love
now.
that. Nicole?
Yeah, and I think for me, it goes back to appreciate the now, appreciate the beauty that's around you and the life that you've created up to this point, and just relish in today.
Love it. Thank you guys so much and really appreciate
you.
you being with us. If our audience wants to connect with you or rent one of your Airbnbs, how can they do that?
Well, you can reach out to me on at hangtime41, which is my Instagram. Shoot, we have rcstays24 at gmail.com is the rental thing, but you could book through VRBO, Host Away, or whatever else. What about you?
We're in the process of creating our own website
true.
that will have our rentals and then along with our car rentals. So we're trying to do like a one-stop shop. So we'll have
Love
a
it.
website here soon that will probably be linked on his Instagram.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, you guys have been amazing. You've dropped so much good knowledge for our audience. And so we really appreciate you guys coming on here. So thank you so much. It's been great.
We appreciate you
Thank you.
asking
Yeah,
us.
this is great. You guys are so easy to talk to.
Thanks for being part of the family today. If you want to see more of our journey through our personal life, businesses, and adventures, give us a follow on Instagram at Our Family Invests.
If you like this podcast, share this episode with a friend. And if you really want to support us, we would be so grateful if you would leave us a review on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. Your review helps us to reach a bigger audience and bring on more amazing guests. Thank you so much. We really, truly appreciate you.